Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome to Lessons from AI Leaders, how the experts are giving employees back 4 to 6 hours of productive time per week. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, PeopleReign CEO. Work will change more in the next, say, 3 years than it has in the previous 300. Since the first industrial revolution in the 18th century, we're fundamentally rethinking our relationship with machines. At PeopleReign, our mission is to positively impact how the next billion employees experience work. For some, that creates a little bit of anxiety, but for others, it creates opportunity. Today, we'll learn from a panel of experts how to help employees do great work by partnering with AI. PeopleReign is the AI platform that automates employee service. Many of the most respected organizations on the planet use PeopleReign to help employees spend less time waiting and more time doing what they love. PeopleReign automates more than 5,000 common work tasks. It integrates with more than 100 enterprise systems. Now, I also host AI in the Future of Work, the podcast where we've published 300 plus conversations with AI visionaries over the past 5 years. We have a community of more than 1 million listeners. If you're not already listening, why not? Join us. Today's a special day at PeopleReign, or what we call the Rain Train. We announced record growth, customer success, new partners, and an investment from the VC firm founded by John Chambers, JC2 Ventures. Right after this, I encourage you to listen to the great discussion we just published with John on AI and the Future of Work, in which I interview him about leadership lessons, and then he interviews me back about our mission and our vision at PeopleReign. Before introducing you to the panelists, I will first set the stage for today's important conversation. Since that cataclysmic event a couple years ago in 2022, November of 2022, when OpenAI's ChatGPT was unlaunched on an unsuspecting global population, we've seen kind of three peaks, I'll call them, kind of waves of AI euphoria, confusion, questioning. And today we're going to be mostly focused on what I'll call peak 3, but peak 1 was what we'll call a focus on infrastructure. There was a lot of discussion, certainly a lot of investment in the compute side of AI, storage, how it all works. What is a GPT, a generative pre-trained model? And that occupied our attention for a long time. We then progressed to what I'll call peak 2, where the focus was on data. How do you train it? How do you aggregate it? How do you make sure that it's doing what you expect to do? How do you make sure that it provides answers that are helpful, not harmful? And that was a step in the right direction, but it still didn't get us to what I'll call peak 3. We're just now about to ascend peak 3, and that's where the focus is shifting to business value. As we know from the history of disruptive technologies, whether that was mainframe to client server, or desktop computing, or desktop to mobile, or on-prem to cloud, all these kind of transformative shifts have ultimately kind of not been appreciated in the enterprise until we actually start to focus less on the technology and more on the impact that the technology has on humans. And so now I'm proud of the fact that, as you'll learn from today's expert panelists, we're now focused on how to use AI to make humans more productive, and how to exercise AI responsibly, and how to deliver better business outcomes with AI. So less a focus on how it works, less a focus on where it got the data, and more a focus on the actual KPIs, key performance indicators that AI can impact, and how do we accelerate that change within our enterprises. So we're going to talk a lot about tips and what we've learned from the best in the business, how they're giving employees back 4 to 6 hours of productive time per week. I thought I'd tee up today's important conversation with 3 tips and 3 best practices that I frequently share with leadership teams. We first often refer to what I call taking the pledge, creating a culture where AI experimentation is celebrated. We encourage every organization to have every employee take this simple pledge. I openly and enthusiastically will share whenever my work product was enhanced or augmented by AI. What that does is says to every employee, We're learning together. We're in the experimentation phase, but together we have all the answers. And individually, we don't necessarily. So it's less about the tools and less about anyone feeling like AI has to live in the shadows. Let's bring it out of the shadows. Let's create AI as a center of excellence. Let's celebrate new use cases. Let's have a dialogue. That's what leaders do. We create a trusted environment where employees are proud to celebrate how they're using AI, and we all learn together. Second best practice, start with high guardrails. So we want everything that AI can do, and we'll discuss this more in some of the use cases with today's panelists, but we want to opt in to everything that AI can do, every task that it can perform, every integration that it can do, every question that it can answer. We want to explicitly allow it to do that thing. So by default, there are high guardrails. It can do nothing unless we give it permission to do that. And then the last tip I'll share is to think about productivity in terms of giving time back, and think about giving time back to employees in terms of using AI to automate actions. So AI, as we all know, can do lots of fun parlor tricks. But you know what? Having AI write haikus about cats is not the thing that's going to unleash a new wave of productivity for employees. But what is going to be looking for all the sources of friction, everything that holds an employee back or impedes their progress. So what we want to think about is creating safe places where employees can do more great work, more work that matters. And the way we do that is by thinking about what are the pockets of the 20 minutes, the 45 minutes, the hour, the hours that are spent waiting for IT, for HR, for technology fixes, for answering questions about payroll, for updating your benefits, for taking PTO, for booking conference rooms. These are all the things that are common and create friction. They all require action taking beyond answering questions. So we want to think about those as kind of three good starting points as you're thinking about how to create kind of a disruptive impact in your organization and how to hopefully be that lightning rod, that leader of your AI strategy. Three things that I'd encourage you to think about. Now, with that as a tee up, I want to introduce you to today's panel of experts. We've got Dennis Hodges from Inteva Products, the CIO over there. We've got my friend Pat from Parsons Corporation, who's an amazing visionary IT leader. And of course, Pete Wiles, the great system architect over at SEC. All are very familiar with all the topics that I teed up so far. And to get things started, I'm going to ask the panelists one by one to come off mute, introduce themselves, their background, and then just start off the conversation by sharing a bit about your AI initiative, your AI journey, and what's the business problem that you're solving. Let's go left to right. Dennis, how about you first?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to touch base and let you know that this is a journey. We're not that much further ahead than anyone else, but we definitely have a vision of where we're trying to go. To get back to to Dan's previous slides about creating an environment where people can try it and those things. My view is innovate boldly. Allow people the chance to go out and try something, kick the tires with the guardrails to keep us out of trouble. So that's one of the big ones, my motto on this is. And then on some just initial projects, we are looking at, help, resetting passwords, things like that, that make life easier for everyone. And then a big one for us right now is getting the information that's out there where people can use it, and basically synthesizing and consolidating it to give a better answer, so that I don't need to know where the documentation on how to do a purchase order is. I can just ask the question. We're working with People right now to gather that information and come back, give you the answer, and then tell you the reference points, which is really important for us, so that if you have further questions, you can go here or you can contact so-and-so. So that's kind of, starting point for us.
Thanks, Dennis, and welcome. Pat Carroll.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Patrick Carroll at Parsons, or Pat Carroll at Parsons. We've been working with PeopleRain over the last year or so. We launched in the summer with our enterprise rollout for what we call Concierge AI. And really our goal with Concierge AI was to improve employee experience and productivity. And so we've done that by leveraging the technology with our knowledge base and tying it into our key systems, both IT and the HR side, to make it easier for Parsons employees across the world to get simple self-service with the click of a button. And so far, we've had great success. People really enjoy the technology. Our implementation is in Microsoft Teams, where a lot of Parsons employees spend much of their day working, certainly collaborating. So it's easy to get self-service support via Concierge AI through Microsoft Teams on your desktop and on your mobile.
Thank you, Pat.
Sure.
And Pete Wiles, who has a better accent than all of us.
I've got the English accent, haven't I? Yeah, so I'm Pete Wiles, technology leader from England, sort of middle of England, for those who've been around here. I've been in IT for about 15 years with my sort of focus on managed service providers. And when it comes to sort of AI, we try to do things at scale. So when we take on those customer services, even though we might be trying to do one service, but every customer is slightly different. And to do that scale with humans can take a lot of humans, because every human has to know something different, and that each customer is slightly different because you want to give them that unique experience. PeopleRain and other technologies has helped us to bring that same at scale and use it the technology to take so what our baseline offering is and focus on the terminologies, the acronyms, and all the different customers use, and yeah, do that sort of take away the sort of the human element of it, put the technology in front of there, allow it to scale, and we can then do other better things with those people, driving more services and all that good stuff there.
Brilliant. Dennis, your organization is global in nature, and I know from working with your great team, Venu, et cetera, you thought about this project as different from kind of the rollout of maybe a traditional desktop app. Talk about what it meant to deliver an AI-first solution to the business, and kind of how you partnered with your leadership team to educate them about the capabilities.
Good question. We really started down the road with one of our leaders, one of our my peer executives in our chief commercial office, sales VP, really trying to digitize his area. They were, kind of behind the ball, and we started there. And then we heard of a number of people that were retiring in the engineering group, and so we worked with Dan right off the bat to do some recordings of some of these really experienced, I'll say, senior engineers. I won't say they're necessarily managers or anything. They knew their areas very well, quality or problem solving. We got 4 to 8 hours of recordings with them, and we've thrown AI against it from Dan and group to basically synthesize what they've said, so that, I mean, like I said, we are global. We have engineers in China, India, all across Europe, Korea, Japan, and then US and Mexico, and Brazil. So we have people that need to know answers to common problems, or you could just say problem solving, whether they need an answer or not. This is allowing everyone to be able to get to Jim or the Digital Joe to get their expertise without them being online. And both of them have retired by now. So, they're memorialized with this. We're looking at doing that even more as people, either retire, move into a new area, or they work in an area where they are an expert. And we make that product in 5 regions, around the globe. And we want to be able to share that rather than having what I always call the room full of reinvented wheels. Because everybody, if you don't know what anyone else is doing, you think you're working on something new. You may not be working on something new. So,
Yeah, well said. Pat, I know you haven't yet deployed expert interviews, but one of the things that your team did in the past was deploy the corporate intranet, the kind of legacy tool. And I know you certainly encountered some headwinds deploying the AI initiative. Talk us through some of the challenges that you faced from the business, kind of iterating on the traditional self-service platform and augmenting it with AI?
Yeah, it's interesting. Parsons has a culture of innovation, but sometimes rolling out new products to the enterprise, we run into those headwinds just for usability standpoint or people taking the time to try. Um, we know we had some great success at leveraging I'll say our legacy product, which is called Concierge, which is where employees go to use a desktop tool to search for knowledge, and it provides access to answers and the ability to say open a ticket or contact the service desk, both on the IT and HR side. But we wanted to find a way to augment that in a way, leveraging AI to, again, improve the productivity and experience, tap into multiple systems, and make it easy for our employees to get access to that information, both on the IT and HR side. We've we had a good rollout. We actually went through a enterprise communications plan, multiple emails, multiple posts through our systems, and not surprisingly, we run into some of the folks who just aren't keeping up with their communications or not willing to try new things. The folks that have tried, we're probably about 25-30% of our enterprise, which is pretty good and on par with our enterprise rollouts. We'd like to see more, but I think on the Parsons side of house, what's confounding for us and kind of a head scratcher is we are such a culture of innovation, but we run into snags with folks wanting to leverage new tools, not particularly just AI, but new tools in general. The good news for us is our leadership, both at the IT and senior leadership side of the company, are very heavily invested in the notion of AI and all the things that go with it. And they want us to continue to promote to the enterprise and bring tools that make the employees more successful and the company more successful.
Yeah, well said. Pete, because SCC is an MSP, a managed service provider, your architecture is unique. You also have an interesting history with, call it a legacy chatbot. Maybe talk about what's unique about the SCC architecture, and then some of the challenges that you were trying to iterate beyond when you upgraded the legacy chatbot.
Yeah, so obviously being a managed service provider, we obviously have got lots of customers that sit on our tool set, and each of them might, they're IT, so majority of what we do from is the same sort of problems: fix your laptop, break fix services, but they still have quite unique businesses that we build, will curate knowledge for internally, or will consume their knowledge and allow our desk agents to self do that thing. One of the big pushes within the company was to get them to self-serve, either through sort of different channels, so like Microsoft Teams or mobile devices, virtual agent, and stuff like that. But trying to get that customer engagement can be quite challenging, especially if they're sort of set in their ways, or we've got varying degrees in different sectors engage with self-service more than others. So some are predominantly just pick up the phone. They want to talk to a human. They don't care about self-service. They don't want to go and log a call. They'll always pick up the phone first. And then you've got other more, I say, tech savvy or just other industries or customers who will go and do self-service. But if you don't have that chatbot, don't have that channel that makes it easier to talk to a human than it is to do that channel, then they don't engage. So sometimes over the last couple of years, we've had chatbots for about 6-7 years, trying to get end users to consume those sort of chat services, it's challenging. Therefore, we took the initiative to go after that sort of say people range, sort of AI technology to sort of underpin some of that, take it to the next step, so bring that natural conversation. So it's not just answering a question or get confused, or we have to have humans or internal teams, lots of people having to explain or build out terminology and taxonomies to get the language understanding. We can use that sort of capability. You know what? It understands 3 million terms from an IT or an HR perspective. We don't have to worry about that problem. We can now spend our time, energy, and focus internally, either curating better knowledge or looking at how we automate those actions. So you mentioned on that action taking capability, or get better answers. So they are going to find it easier to go to a self-service or different channels than it is to pick up a phone.
I want to make this actionable for our audience. And I think the best way to do that is, let's talk a little bit about impediments to adoption within your businesses and some of the techniques that you've each used to make the virtual agent and the AI solution accessible. And for all of you, but maybe Pat, I think your team's done a particularly good job at this. Maybe if you could share some of the things that have worked for your team.
Well, number one, we put it in Microsoft Teams, and Dan, you remember the conversations we had about where should this live, and you said you can put it anywhere. We talked about putting it on our internet homepage where we know we get lots of traffic for folks to come in and do time entry and get to other enterprise systems. But ultimately, we decided to put it in Teams because we know people are there routinely based on the numbers we look at and the way Parsons holds meetings and collaborates. So that was number one. And then the second thing is we wanted to make sure we rolled out the virtual assistant with more than the ability to just answer questions. So really important for us was action taking, order a credit card, order a new laptop, get help with password reset, things that the users typically can do on their own without having to make a phone call, but can be done in our concierge AI virtual assistant. So you can say, I need a new corporate card, enter the question inside the Microsoft Teams chat is now a form where you fill that out, hit submit, and now the backend process all happens. The user is done, and in a week or two, a new credit card arrives at their home. It's that sort of kind of action taking and processes that we wanted to make sure we rolled out. So when people used it, they had a aha type moment versus just say a typical GPT or a parlor trick, as Dan mentioned, parlor trick type thing around the IT services. And that's really served us well. The folks that have used it and used the action taking, to check your PTO balance or for password reminders, as I said, have been a huge game changer for us in adoption and getting people to go try the tool.
Yeah, good perspective. Dennis and Pete, please.
I was going to say, Pat, so did you do a big bang, or did you have like pilot groups in different countries or different parts of your business?
Yeah, we did. Good question, Pete. We did pilot groups. So we rolled it out to about 100 influencers in 4 different countries. And then after that, we rolled it out to the 400 member IT team for 2 weeks. And then after that, we rolled it to the entire enterprise, which is 18,000 plus. So over that time, it was 4 weeks of, I'll say, piloting and beta. We were in pretty good shape by the time we sent it out to the 100 folks. We had done so much testing with my team and through the PeopleRain folks. By the time we got to the IT group, was very little issues for us to go back and clean up and work on. Really, it was to see how people would interact with the virtual agent, like what kind of stuff they were really going to ask and focus on. Even though we gave them, try it this way, use it for that, people want to do it their own way. But yeah, that's how we did it, and it worked well for us.
Dennis or Pete, perspectives on increasing adoption?
I think what I've found is, in most environments, you have digital natives, which are the ones that can really take advantage and go forward. And in a lot of companies, there's digital Neanderthals that are a little slower to adopt. It's like, drag them along. My view's always been with IT solutions is find somebody that wants to work on something, get them successful, have them really successful, and let them sell it. I'm not a salesperson. The best salesperson is somebody from the business. So we try to do that, and then the adoption comes from there. It almost snowballs. You have to be prepared to take the next big step, which a lot of people don't think about. Is you go to a pilot, you overwhelm it, and people are frustrated. We're trying to do it the other way, which is introduce it slowly enough that we kick all the tires and go that way. So
yeah, so we had I say a challenge at the beginning because we obviously did it ourselves first, internal IT, and as you said, IT people understand IT, so we tend to ask direct questions because we understand how to get the answer. Some of the learnings we did along the way was going out into more of the less technical people who, as you said, just want to go and smash a keyboard or start asking it, random questions. So We ended up standing up a working group internally, so cross selection, different parts of the business, some of the different countries as well. So it wasn't just a UK country, to get that more cross collaboration kind of piece going. And that we've used that working group internally. The working group meets every week, but we've got more steering committee that meets every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what we're trying to do. That's helped guide the business, and they then support the business comms as well.
And Dan, one other thing for adoption I would mention is the way we've thought about this is we knew we couldn't roll out everything 90 days ago or so. So we have things lined up along the way to keep adding to the process, obviously. But one thing we rolled out actually this yesterday was proactive messaging to employees. So now the virtual assistant will remind Parsons employees that they're late in adding time to their web sheet. Every Parsons employee has to do a daily timesheet. So just yesterday we launched the service where Concierge AI will say, "Hey Pat, your timesheet is past due." And while that might be a nag for some folks to see it, they get it in email as well. It's actually important for us from a compliance standpoint, but it's also a way we think people will learn to engage with the bot for service issues or policy issues moving forward.
Massive opportunity for ticket deflection. It was great the way Pat, your team did that.
Yeah,
So-
we'll be rolling it out for password reminders very shortly too, to remind employees at the 7-day mark that your password needs to be reset. And I think we'll do it again at the 1-day mark if they've not done it.
We can't have this discussion about what AI can do without also having a discussion about what AI can't do or shouldn't do. And I think all of the three of you are good examples of how to place the right amount of focus on data hygiene and governance. You've all had, interesting, leadership level involvement in those conversations. Maybe one by one, if you could share with the audience how you think about data hygiene and governance when it comes to the AI capabilities that you allow.
Let me go first. So a lot of our customers, so we're a UK-based company, but we have customers outside the UK, so the EU. I've also got our own company teams who work across different countries as well. So one of the biggest focus, obviously, work with sort of Dan and his team was ensuring UK sovereignty of data, but also where that data sits to make sure that sort of governance is in place. And the technology supports it, but also what we feed that information. I think we talked about it as the guardrails as well. I think it's pledge 2 is make sure we've got the guardrails in place there as well to make sure that data obviously doesn't go outside the UK, or if it does, then the customer can sign on to that. That's an opt-in rather than opt-out. The technology is there to do it, and the platform we use as well as, it's option 2 there, as well as the sort of people range capability. And when we're looking at the modeling and work with some of the sort of data scientists as well, they're really knowledgeable about how we can use the technology within inside People Rain, not just our guardrails within our business, but also the People Rain technology all day to make sure we're not servicing information that we shouldn't be servicing to our different customers, because they're quite sensitive in that as well. So that was quite a big bit of our solution at the beginning, before we even started, the technology side of it, was understanding what that data is, sovereignty data, where it sits, who can access that data as well. It's one of the things you don't really think about when your platform just sits in one country, but when you start sharing that information across different countries, and you've got the technology teams as well, internal teams who are smashing keyboards and building out the capabilities, there's a whole understanding as well around that, or who can touch data. So I learned lots from that kind of stuff as well.
And I'm going to focus on guardrails for your data hygiene. You really, it's almost like you need a good housekeeping seal of approval for the data that's being presented. I won't say spit out. Sometimes it feels like that when it's garbage in, garbage out approach, but really trying to focus on having good data that people can really work from that perspective. So that's a challenge. People want to take data and then manipulate it and then present it as fact, where the originating group may not want it that way. So, governance is a really important role. And then just, ensuring that people don't trust everything completely. But again, number two here, ensuring trustworthiness is part of the a big challenge we have with some of our groups is they just don't believe what's going to come out of the system unless someone that's an expert agrees with it to start with.
And and for us, we were just, made sure that we were not adding any PII information. Our team works routinely with many of the IT systems and HR systems, so we're very aware that what this virtual assistant could share or could share. So we've walled that off to make sure none of that stuff comes into the system. If you ask, the virtual assistant knows a lot about me, but if I ask it about what my salary is or things like that, it comes back with a sorry, I can't help you with that. And I think just based on the guardrail component, the other thing that we spent a lot of time talking with Dan and team about was we wanted to make sure that the virtual assistant wasn't too chatty or didn't have say had the wrong personality in terms of what we expected for the virtual assistant. One, we didn't want people just chatting with the VA to talk about the weather or jokes or anything like that. But we also wanted to keep it as business focused as possible, so it really stood the test of time for operational efficiency. So we have I'll say a very polite, terse virtual assistant, but that's exactly what we wanted it to do. And with the People Rain tool, we were able to get it to exactly what we needed.
It's one of the things that, yeah, sorry, Pete,
sorry,
please.
Dan. I was going to say we had a slight. So one of our questions, we went down a set very similar roles, very business focused, answer the questions in the IT and the sort of HR format. But some of our questions, they were asking about our company or about their own companies as well. So we ended up having to not just do our internal knowledge and knowledge sources from our customers and our knowledge services. We actually had to go and look at how we integrate the company's sort of information into the knowledge, which obviously without People Rain or AI tools would have had to go and create some knowledge articles or have a manual dump. But there's capabilities there where you can just go and read a website, public websites, and push that into there, so you can start asking questions. Which, even though it wasn't on our original sort of requirement list, it led to a better experience. And even though it wasn't IT focused, they could ask questions about our own company, which we didn't have before, which is quite good.
One of the things that all of our listeners can resonate with is that you all have alternative systems of record or enterprise systems that have kind of adjacent capabilities, we'll call them. So I'd like the group to hear from each of you, maybe Pete on how your virtual agent complements ServiceNow, Pat, how your virtual agent complements Salesforce, Dennis, how you thought about the capabilities of Copilot. I know you're kind of a Microsoft backend. Just maybe one by one, share some of your perspectives at how you thought of of an and a better together, even though there's some adjacent analogous capabilities.
Copilot, we're using Copilot. We're looking at other, options as far as some basics, but being able to get into that systems of record for us, it's not always when it's one. That's a little easier when there's two, when there's an ERP system and the PLM or engineering system, where you want to get information on screw from the 2D drawing, but you also want some of the part information from the ERP. You can merge it together. That's where I see us going. To our world, it's making engineering more productive and faster and more accurate, because our hand drawn or whatever processes are not always as accurate as we think they are. And the ability to get all the information and share it globally in basically my time, I won't say real time or near real time, when you're in 13 time zones, there is no such thing as a common time zone. So but if you have this capability to get the information, to ask the question, to research things in your own time, you can get a lot more done. That's what our CEO is really excited about.
And I can pick it up from there, Dennis. So as Dan mentioned, we use Salesforce Service Cloud for both the IT and HR service systems, both in North America and our EMEA region. And Concierge AI also taps into other enterprise systems, be it our Parsons homegrown internal systems, along with things like Workday. But we've had a seamless integration with the PeopleRain technology, where users can go in through Microsoft Teams and log a ticket right there in the chat, and it back end creates a service ticket for either the IT or the HR side. So we've had really good success complementing our internal tools and adding the added layer of productivity or operational efficiency with the PeopleRain technology to go along with what we have internally.
And yeah, that's good segue as well. So our architecture, we use ServiceNow as our enterprise platform for our IT services. Obviously, there's very similar technologies said there, where with PeopleRain, we see it as a sort of, because it's tool set agnostic, you can put it anywhere back to that. So we can use it across any of our tool sets with the same sort of architecture in the PeopleRain space. We can integrate with ServiceNow. We're keeping the best of the both in how we've architected it. We're still using ServiceNow's virtual agent, but we're powering it with the PeopleRain through sort of APIs and other technology. But now we can use that same PeopleRain technology elsewhere in our enterprise, or for other services that we decide to sort of go to market with as well. So we've sort of tried to keep the balance of both our enterprises and both technical architectures in the fray, so we can be more scalable and maneuver how we see the industry going or where we want to take our services in the future.
Good perspectives, all three of you. So I'm going to call an audible here. We've only got a few minutes left. I want to get everyone out on time, and we've got a very engaged audience. I see a lot of questions streaming in for the three of you. I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna kind of summarize actually a few of the questions that are popping up and pose to all three of you. So the audience wants to know how you built the business case. So how you thought about cost justifying, how you thought about solving the right business problem, and ultimately what was your process for getting approval to move forward, in whatever order you'd like. But please share.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I'm a big believer in the skunkworks approach. So, start with some smaller projects that can show value. And then again, find that sponsor, the unknowing sponsor, sometimes the unknown sponsor that gets excited and wants to go forward with it, or find someone that's already interested. In our case, we were fortunate. Our sales VP was very interested in digitalization of his area. So, that's what it really takes. A business case, and educate your executives and have a strategy even before you start, if you can, or do them simultaneously. But that strategy development is really key. And, without that, I don't think you'll get anywhere. We've been fortunate. We've got some people that can see the future a little bit, and our CEO's been to enough Greenbriers and places like that where they're talking about AI that he says, "Oh, it's not just the IT guy talking about it." So that's good. So.
Yeah, and for me, it was actually quite easy. I didn't have to make a business case. Our CIO came to me and said, "We need to roll out AI in a thoughtful way, but get it done as fast as you can." And we started doing the investigations and ended up with PeopleRain and got that done, fortunately.
I'll probably just mimic same conversation. CIO, we need to be there. We need to be in front of the forefront. They did a business case. A lot of it was around taking our data and doing some analysis of what the value PeopleRain is and what they do, as well as other capabilities and technologies. And yeah, we did lots of data lookups when I was for the business case. But yeah, we said, yeah, they crack on, Pete.
Excellent. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm not going to have time to get to everyone's question, but I do want to wrap up today's discussion with one last question for all the panelists. Your number one lesson learned, something that surprised you that maybe everyone can benefit from, maybe a mistake that you made that others don't have to make.
Number one, probably off the top of my head, was how we wrote knowledge and the information that PeopleRain and the platform consumes. Obviously, we're writing it in a very formal manner into the knowledge articles or the catalog items or whatever we're doing there. However, when sort of PeopleRain or sort of the AI capabilities was reading it, it was reading in that very formal manner, but that's not how humans interact with and ask questions. It's very much humanistic. So we had to sort of take that back into our knowledge teams and some of our internal teams and go, right, actually, when we're approaching knowledge articles or not building catalog items, when we're building a description and a short description, or all the details for the virtual agent to consume, write it in the way a human's going to interact with it, or it's going to skew the results, or you're not probably going to get the right sort of the right output and the right format back to the customer, or it's going to be very rigid, and then the user's going to go, oh, it's a bit of a pants experience, and then pick up a phone.
Pete, I think that's a great suggestion. I've seen some of that in practice ourselves. Good engineering company, our policies and procedures are very formal.
Yeah.
And as we've, and the other takeaway I've got, which just amazed me, is, becoming a prompt engineer. That is important. It's like I always kid around with my son. He's 29 and he'll do a Google search for something and he'll be dissatisfied with the results. And I'll say, well, what are you trying to find? Then I'll ask a question and I can get a better response because I think I just ask questions better because I got so much experience asking questions and getting information. You do that with AI and, I've asked a question and then I'll say, well, can you refine that to add this? And didn't have to repeat the entire question. Just said, now add that. Now do this for this period. And, it's amazing. It's hard not to get on the bandwagon if you use it. So that's what we're doing with our executives, is giving them the option to use, either a Copilot or I've got a team version of Chat GPT, so we don't share our data, but just something to get them exploring the world around them. And the ones that are, to me, that's almost the modern IQ test. If they don't get excited about it, you wonder, so.
Yeah, I would say, I'm sorry, I was answering a question in text, but I think you asked about lessons learned or what we might do over. I think the lesson learned for me is, we were, as I said, our enterprise was anxious to get this rolled out. I'll say we promised a 90-day implementation, which we delivered mostly. It was, I think, around 110 days. But I wish we wouldn't have promised a 90-day delivery, so we could have had more time to do more. We rolled out a very elegant tool, but it was a lot of time to get there, and I think a little bit more time would have been helpful for us, and partnering with Dan and team to perhaps tackle some different issues at launch than we were able to get to.
Yeah, well said to all of you. And with your permission, I'd like to share some of the questions we didn't have time to answer with you offline. I know the audience had a lot more that they were hoping to get from you, and we ran out of time. We may have to have a sequel to this great conversation. I'm going to thank you all for the insights, for your time. Just brilliant, and congrats on all your progress and your team's progress.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you.
You bet. Well, as we wrap up, I'll close with a little bit of kind of the way I started. There's never been a better time to be a human, to be a technologist, to be a leader. And what leaders are doing today is really thinking about how to use the emergent properties of these technologies to humanize work. It might seem a little ironic, but really think about that new partnership. We have this opportunity to approach AI with a learner's mindset. Keep in mind that first tip I suggested, together we have all the answers, but use this as an opportunity to ask questions, experiment, celebrate curiosity in your organizations, and that's how you're going to find your AI initiative will be will be successful. I'll conclude with one final thought. When it comes to that important kind of new partnership between humans and machines, I firmly believe that what can be predicted is better left to machines, but anything that requires rational thinking or judgment or empathy or coaching is and will always better be left to humans. So we're not going away. We're not going away at all. In fact, our role in these important transformations is more critical. Create that safe place where every employee can do the best work of their lives, and it will ultimately benefit you as well. Thanks again for sharing a little bit of your time with us today. Again, thanks to the panelists, and we will be sure to bring you more conversations like this in the future.
Thanks.